Okay, so if, for example, we've got in a situation on the turn where we have raised pre-flop on the button, we get a caller, we bet the flop with pretty much nothing, hoping to take it down, and they call, and the turn brings maybe a scare card, maybe a blank. Should we continue betting? Now, obviously, when we've got next to nothing, if we look at this hand here. This is really kind of a standard spot that you'll find yourself in a lot in pot limit Omaha. I think what you would find in no limit would be that in a lot of situations you will take this down on the flop. You raise on the button with a good but not great hand to isolate a loose passive limper, and he calls, and you get kind of a raggy looking flop. He checks. Now, a lot of the time when we bet in no limit here, we're just going to take it down because they've not hit the board in any way that they can continue with, and so they're just going to fold. The problem in pot limit Omaha is obviously they've got a lot more opportunity to actually hit the board with their hand. So a lot of the time they are going to call on the flop, and they're going to see a turn. Now, that doesn't always mean that that they're actually going to have a hand that's really well connected with this board. For example, in this situation, I'm not too worried about the flush board in this instance because his fold to continuation bet is only 39%, so he's really not folding very often. He's kind of a loose passive station. So I'm just figuring at this point that he can call me down with his range is just really, really wide. A pair of nines. He could be calling with a gut shot, an open-ended straight draw, a pair of jacks, a pair of queens, a pair of tens. He could just be calling because he figures he might have the best hand. Obviously, he doesn't want to raise with that range, and he's just going to see a turn and see what happens. And in this particular guy's instance, I mean, he bets the river 34%. So my guess would be, if I check the turn in this particular spot, that he would probably bet any river, just trying to represent whatever he could and take it down. So in this particular instance, he checks to me, and I just think it's just a really straightforward bet here, even though the board paired and there's spades there. I think it's more of a scary board for him than us, and the fact that he's checked as well, I don't think he's connected with this board often enough for him to be able to continue, especially when he's playing on the flop over 60% of the time. So I think this is a situation where it's just a really, really standard continuation bet on the turn, even though we've got absolutely nothing. It's our only way of winning the pot. I mean, there's $23 in there, and we certainly don't want to give that up. But I think his calling range on the flop is super wide. I think it's also well ahead of our range at this point. Obviously, even if he's got a pair, he's in front. And what actually happens in this situation is he folds.